Hi, and welcome back. I'm Kanisha Leggett with KUMSOT. Today, I'm going to be talking about the preparation that I've made for the group project that's coming up, where we will be conducting a telehealth session with a child via Zoom. So, the first question is, how is preparing for the pediatric group activity different from the preparations that I made for my adult interview? The preparation is different. One, because the interventions that are being planned must be tailored toward the client, younger age. Even though I am treating the client, I must also consider the family member or parent that is in the room. So during my explanation of what will be happening, I must make sure that one, that it is geared toward the client, but that the parent is also able to understand and see the validity of what I'm actually doing. Because if the parent feels as though the intervention was either inappropriate or irrelevant, they're one, less likely to return, two, less likely to be compliant with resimulating that activity at home, and three, then they project their feelings about occupational therapy onto the child, thus making therapy difficult for the child. So, in preparation for that, I've gone over the importance of occupational therapy. I've rehearsed watching the interventions that will be performed so that I can understand step by step and try to foresee any issues that may arise because we are doing it via Zoom. Making sure that the connection is clear, making sure that there are alternatives if the client does not have the needed material, that there's a backup intervention prepared. So I did a little more preparation for this than I did for the adult. Not to mention the fact that I am comfortable with adults, and because never treating a child, I'm not as comfortable with the situation. So I tried to be a little more prepared for um, this intervention session. The next question is, what challenges do I think that I might experience when conducting the group activity, of course, via video conference. And so some of the things that I thought might come up, we could lose connection, they could lose connection. The sound would be difficult if they can't hear or understand what I'm saying. If the relevance of the intervention isn't translating well with the activities that we've chosen, if it doesn't come across as important or relevant as we expected it to, or if the child or the parent lose interest during the intervention, that can also make it difficult, especially if the child has decreased attention and you're trying to get a child to focus. It's challenging enough being in the same room, but being on a computer, that might also be more challenging. Next question is, what are some of the strategies that I can think of to employ to overcome some of those challenges? So, like I stated, just kind of rehearsing, going over the interventions, simulating them. I've practiced with my own child. Also being prepared with a backup intervention in case that one doesn't move as seamlessly as we've anticipated, and also trying to have something available that the child might find interest in. And so when we initially begin, finding out a little bit more about the child to make sure we're sticking along with the interest that the child has. The next question is, do I feel that the communication with pediatric clients is easier or harder than the communication that happens with my adult clients? I believe that the communication with a child will be a little more difficult for me. With an adult, I find that even if they've had some developmental delays, or if they've suffered a TBI or some sort of brain damage, I find that even I'm able to convey the importance of therapy regardless as to their cognitive status. And also, I find that adults are typically more used to following instructions if you tell them that there's going to be the appropriate end result that they would like. I think that children might be a little more challenging when having this communication. One, they don't have the background or skill set that has been built upon. If they've already having challenges with developmental delays, or they haven't had as much time to develop their attention and processing skills, then that may be difficult. And then also just conveying the importance of therapy and compliance with therapy, because as a kid, if it's not fun, if it's not something we're interested in, then typically it's not something we're going to do. So that's why I believe that the communication with a child is more challenging, because we have to build that rapport where they trust our word as to saying that, hey, if we can get through this step and move on where I can help you learn this, it will get better. It will get easier. You will enjoy what we're going to do. So that's why I think there's going to be more of a challenge with the pediatric clientele for me. Lastly, the question is, what are some of the strategies that you can use to assist in enhancing communication with the pediatric client? So again, getting to know that client before you're actually interacting with them, to me, is important. Reading that background, understanding what makes them tick, what they enjoy, really knowing what the diagnosis is, how it's progressing, what stage of life they're in, and making sure that you're incorporating what's important to them. And then, to me, speaking on their level, getting down to a kid's level would seem like it would improve the ability to communicate with a child. If they feel as though you're an adult standing over them, just telling them and barking out orders, I feel like that pushes them toward being less compliant. It's not something they'll enjoy. I think it has to be fun. I think it has to be occupational based, but also geared toward them. I think the client, the child, has to see that it's something they want to do. And I think that will improve the communication, as well as making sure that the family understands. I cannot stress that communication with the family and the child are very important, because if I believe if the family understands the importance of the therapy and they can see the relevance of what's being done with their child, then they are more excited, which then children feed off their parents. So if they're excited about what's going on in therapy, that might improve the communication that you're able to have with the kid. So again, this is Kanisha Leggett with KUMSOT, and that's my discussion on my preparation for my group activity with a young client, and us discussing visual processing, social participation, and gross motor. Have a great evening.